Well, good afternoon or good evening if you're in the beautiful USA. And if you are overseas watching this, thank you. It's already Super Saturday morning for most of you. I am Bruce, aka the guy in the blue shirt, as I'm called here. And my method is simpler, faster, better. And I actually help people do process cleanups. So I am honored to re-engage with Jamie again. And Jamie, why don't you just say hi to everybody? And we will be talking about some stories around transformation and commitment and all sorts of things that have happened since we caught up last time.
I'd love to. It's always good to catch up with you, Bruce, and namaste to the audience. I'm
Mm-hmm.
Jamie London Wahlberg, and I am a plant-powered healer, spiritual wellness coach, and intuitive chef. And transformation is literally my life experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah.
love talking about it.
Yeah, and for some people that may not be familiar, there's a behind the scenes space called typically called the green room before we go live. So Jamie and I were talking, and he was telling me that pretty much his entire life and personal space is in transformation. So why don't you give us a quick snapshot of that? Because I know it's exciting, but kind of very, you're revealing some vulnerability, which you also posted about today. So chat to us a little bit about the transformation and vulnerability here.
Sure. So the transformation and vulnerability is, I think, much like every human being, when one goes through a series of significant changes, at least for me, it feels like the universe is yelling at me to do something, to do
Right.
something very different, to do something radical. And I'm not it's not unusual for me to do something unusual or radical, but for me, within my own way of being, to reach out of my comfort zone takes a lot because I do a lot of things that are uncomfortable. Transformation is uncomfortable. As an example, I am a transgender man, which means that I was assigned female at birth. So
Hmm.
into adulthood, I started my gender transition from female to male. So I'm used to being uncomfortable. I'm used to big transformation and changes. And when it comes to me professionally, that hasn't fully landed always how I would like. I haven't really had that opportunity to launch because I've had a really big health journey, a really big gender journey, all of these things that are just a part of being a human being. And now, through a series of recent changes, I have decided to shift the way that I use my living space and my
Hmm.
professional space to making it more of a conscious workspace whereby I can actually bring clients in.
Right. And
And
I
yeah, go ahead.
no, and I think that's not only is that inspirational, but it requires a certain reflection. And again, I was sharing with you offline that I spent pretty much the last month in a completely different type of workspace, very small workspace, and like you, I've shifted where my home office base is, and that's why the background's a little different than what people might be used to seeing in my live stream. So, but talk to us a little bit more about that, because opening up your not only your personal but office space for in person consultation, that's a big step, Jamie. So, talk us through the process of how that came about, and what are your feelings about that now?
Ooh, many.
Of course.
So I would say that the process so far, you're catching me right at the beginning. This is the first time that I am
Awesome.
not out loud to another person, but out loud to a public
Right.
forum or audience saying, yeah, I'm doing this. And it's really interesting with the human dynamic, even when something is virtual, because, right, this whoop and see fun things like that, tech fun happen all the time. That light's just not going to work now. Um,
Right.
so, different things have happened whereby the virtual world doesn't feel so virtual when it's working anymore. And so that means
Right.
that by me saying out loud to however many people are going to listen and watch this, my human self is like, oh, I'm accountable now. I've
Right.
made a statement that I'm doing this out loud, and now I have something to show for it. And some may look at that and say, whoa, that's really overwhelming. I don't know how to do this. Because here's the thing, I don't really know how to do this.
Right.
I'm gonna figure it out. I know that
Mhm.
I'm a creative person. I know the things that I need and want in a space, and I know what I can bring to my clients. So ultimately, I'm gonna be taking the one part of my life that I treated to be very private, because I'm a very not private person. I'm going to remove that. I'm
Right.
removing that veil. And I'm basically going to be putting myself into a little box into the bedroom. And everything else is going to be something that's going to become what I'm calling convertible space.
Right. Hey, and you know, it will work out. So without me knowing this, you know, I knew we were going to talk about transformation, and because of your recent unveiling, you know, how the vulnerability of that is. But you know, we were also talking about, you know, I had to learn how to live basically in about 80 square feet most of the time in the last 3 weeks. And upon my return, not only have I moved my own office space, but I have a short-term room share. So, you know, I've not had to do that either for a long, long time. So it's funny that, you know, whilst our circumstances are different, they're also similar in many ways. That, you know, we're both having to readjust to not only how we use our space, but maybe the expectations of, you know, privacy, or a little bit less privacy in that space. So so yeah, I admire you. I really think it will all turn out to be the best thing, you know, because most people end up doing the best thing for themselves, and more importantly, they end up doing the best thing for their clients or their coworkers, or, you know, the people that they value most, right? So
Thank you. Thank you for
ah,
that belief. And I agree. And I think it's from this space that there's, a beautiful conversation to be had, because when we have people from all walks of life going through different circumstances and yet have similar challenges that we're meeting, it's a space
right,
where they don't need to be challenges. They can be simply tasks that we're choosing to take on together, and that we are creating fast and effective solutions like you
right.
are so good at. And so, I'm more of a kinesthetic, live and you learn type person. So I think, I'm excited to bring this to public facing, because it's a
Right,
part of my life that I haven't shared as vulnerably as I think that I could. And here's the thing. I bought my Reiki massage table. Like, it is coming. So on October 5th, I think it's arriving, and that means that that today is September 30th, of which I've done like essentially nothing. Actually, that's not true. I've done a little bit of visualizing. I've done some like save in the cart type things that I
right.
might buy later, and then I have put one thing up for sale so far. And I have to complete all of this basically to have that table come in here on the 5th and be like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm coming live, and I'm showing you all the transformation of the space, and it feels like a lot right now.
Well, and you know what, Jamie, it will. But what I can tell you, it's kind of similar to what I had to do, you know, last month. And when I said I'm going to go do I wanted to do the van life thing, but when I looked at the economics of the van life thing, it's gotten so outrageously expensive. But a really good friend of mine said, "Hey, have you ever seen this iCamper thing?" And basically, it's a queen size bed that is in a semi-rigid form that pops open from the top of your car, and people can go see some pictures from recent posts. But the point about that is it was a halfway house, not having to do the whole van life. But I had, you know, put the goal out there, the intention that I was going to go follow my love of IndyCar and go do the last two races of the season, because I'd made commitments to go meet people, some that I was meeting for the first time and some that I was re-meeting on that whole tour. So So what I will tell you is, even though it's overwhelming, and I actually overplanned. I have way too much stuff with me, as it turned out. So it will actually work out. It's funny, if you put it out there, it will come to be. And you mentioned offline that, one common element we have is that we have to rapidly solve problems. So yeah, there'll be some problems in the next 5 or 6 days, but and I'm a kinesthetic learner like you, so so I was sharing some moments with my iCamper, how I had to learn how to turn it through 180 degrees pretty quickly, when I thought, the iCamera was going to end up in the ocean in a windstorm, so so you'll figure it out. And you know what, the Reiki table will be, what a great advantage for your clients to have an actual Reiki table for you to work with them on. That's going to be cool.
Thank you. Yes, I'm very excited to be able to do things hands-on in that way.
Yeah.
Even though I've taken some clients in other forms, so I've never had a table to work with. It's on a bed, or it's on a couch, or
Right.
it's an entire other level of effectiveness, um and in a world where people like legitimacy also, but
Right.
it's a vibe, and I bring an energy, literally, to
Yeah.
to the space, and I want to be able to bring that in this way, and it's just kind of hit me as an emergent solution.
Yeah.
I needed I need money now. I needed a solution now. I wanted to do things in person, and this is the fastest way that I know how to do it.
Yeah, and you know what? It's amazing, because if you do invest in the right stuff will actually help you. And again, I learned this. I learned this in the last 21, 22 days when I was on tour, that if you don't have the right stuff, things don't work out so good. And it's funny, because we were talking about transformation and vulnerability. Part of the right stuff is also being willing to ask people for help as well. And I'm a pretty prideful person sometimes, and sometimes I haven't been as good at asking for help, and I've struggled and messed up. And then, I mean, you get the kinesthetic learning that way, but I was not in a place sometimes where I could you know dilly dally around, or dawdle, wait too long when it was obvious I needed help. So the point about that, I was amazed at how kind people are. So and you've probably got some stories to share about that as well, in the last several weeks, where you've made all these decisions and now you're going forward.
Oh yes. No, I've had quite a few people show up for me in my times of need in ways that I did not anticipate. I think that what's been really powerful is it's been a beautiful reminder of something that I often tell clients, which is that you never know where a solution's going to come from. You don't
Mhm.
always get what you think it is that you want, but you oftentimes get what you need.
Yeah.
And in moments where I found it harder than other times to ask for help, because of all of the experience of transformation I've had in my life to this point,
Hmm.
I found it easier than it could have been. And
Right.
I stretched myself, and it meant getting picked up from a situation that wasn't safe. It meant me getting a meal when I didn't have money to pay for it. It
Hmm.
meant me seeing a possibility for myself that in the moment I couldn't see.
Hmm.
I was given a space to actually have my clients, where I thought I was going to have to cancel all of my clients. So there's been many people who have shown up for me, and asking for help is very challenging for a lot of people, because we're
Yeah.
programmed not to. We're programmed
Right.
that if we ask for help, we are weak. that we are not capable, that we don't have confidence, that we are not successful, and that we have failed. And in fact, asking for help is an incredible strength. And it shows your awareness that you're not on the earth by yourself. From, you know, our perspective, at least from my perspective right now, I'm not the only human on this earth. And so that means taking account of how I impact people and taking account of how people can impact me.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting. You mentioned awareness, and I think my greatest reflective learning through my journey in September was if you're really aware of what's going on around you, the way that you ask for help is so important. So, you know, I had a magical, even though it was highly stressful moment where I had a flat tire in the mountains in the Azusa area, and I was away from my campsite, but I was close to a Costco tire center, of which fortunately I'm a Costco member, but I joined this line and I was in line for at least an hour and a half before I got to see a service technician. And what I observed is there were a lot of people getting very angry with the service technician, but the poor guy was on his own, right? And he had super patience. So what I decided was, instead of me getting like the rest of the people, I was going to be very empathetic with him. So it's funny because, you know, I arrived at my turn and I already knew some of the answers he was going to give, which is the wait list is this, and I can only do this. So the awareness was for me as I listened to everything he was saying. So I positioned back to him, hey, you know, I need some help. And based on what I sees happening, you know, number one, I feel sorry for you that you're on your own and blah, blah, blah. And I was very empathetic. But what I did is I gave him 2 or 3 possible solutions without him having to think about what the solution or what he should say to me in return. So, and that had an amazing impact on him, because I could tell he de-stressed. You know, he's pretty high strung with all the people being angry at him, of course. But more importantly, what really happened was that he figured out how to help me, because originally he was telling everyone 4 hours would be the wait, which would have meant it was be dark by then, and I didn't want to drive back into the mountains, at least with a temporary tire on in the dark with my iCamper. So anyway, we figured out a solution, and so I left my vehicle with him and I walked to this Starbucks. And the other piece of kindness, I had my Costco paperwork with me, and I put it down on the counter, and the gal said to me, "How's your day?" And, you know, I must have had that whole energy thing. And she looked at me and she said, I guess it's not so good, right? And I said, no. And I said, I have a flat tire. I got to wait 4 hours for Costco to help me. And anyway, she said, what do you want to drink? So I told her I wanted a drink, and I went to pay, and she said, you know what? It's on me. And that right there was like, oh my goodness, that was just such an act of kindness and relief that, you know, and that one act, you know, for a $4 Starbucks drink that she paid for, it was amazing. And so, yeah, and her name was Angel. How about that?
Bruce, I call those divine intervention moments.
Correct.
I call them divine intervention moments because I believe this is a synchronicity of today, because I was just having a conversation about this before we hopped on,
right,
to our conversation. And I think that if we choose to see them and be open to them and welcome them, there are so many moments, whether you call them a miracle, whether you call them a divine intervention, whether you call it a synchronicity, a meeting, a meet cute, whatever it is, there's a happening whereby an attraction of electricity comes together and something amazing happens.
Right.
And at the center of that amazement is love.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So, and I could tell she loved her job. She was, bubbly, and I was kind of listening to her. So she gave me the drink, and I was kind of listening to her, and it was just a joy. And I started doing some stuff on my computer just to distract me from, what I was told would be a 4 hour wait. Well, only maybe another hour went by and I got the call, and it was actually the guy from Costco, and he said, "Hey, we figured out how to, we can at least bump your donut on there, which is the tiny little tire." He said, "You can at least get back to your campsite and be able to sleep there," which was my main concern. I wanted to get back there before dark, and I wanted to be able to sleep in my iCamper because I had nowhere else to go at that point. And more importantly, in the time I was also at Starbucks in Angel's presence, in her good energy, I actually tracked down 2 special tires that was at a place not too far away from where I was actually staying the night. So, so the following day I went and tracked down 2 tires, and they treated me good there as well. And they put the car back together, and I was back on the road safely, which was the main thing. I wanted to be safe. So
That is the main thing. That is the main thing. And I think humanity can lose sight of that a lot, of like what the main thing is. And I get it, because we want convenience and
right,
comfort and ease and understanding and simple. And the more challenge that one experiences prior to whatever moment they're in, where there is a possible moment of ease or frustration, that adds up too.
right.
And at the same time, things have a way, like we've been talking about, of panning out how they need
Yeah.
to.
And actually, the follow through to that was that I did track down the 2 special tires, and they got me underway. But what that led me to do was I actually decided to make a location change for, actually, it was the last night I was staying in Orange County in California, and I was able actually to be in a more convenient spot for my following morning meeting, which was my last meeting before I was driving all the way across California to come back to the Phoenix area. So like you said, it has a way of working itself out. And yes, it wasn't the original plan, but through a lot of good energy and people helping me solve the problem, it ended up being a better decision. In fact, I got back to my home in the Phoenix area, several hours earlier, which was great because, I wanted to be off the road before it was dark. So it's amazing. It all worked out. It was not cheap money wise, but I got home safely and all good.
Well, it sounds like you got to do an amazing trip that you wanted, and you had some really beautiful experiences and connections along the way. And
I
what
did.
a
Yeah.
great use of energy and resources.
Yeah, and talking of energy and resources, I got surprised. So my meeting in Torrance, I was meeting with Raquel Boris, who I'd not met with before in person, and then Raquel and Nancy Barrows are really good friends from university days, and they've been friends for a long, long time. So we knew we were going to meet Nancy for a bite to eat later. So Raquel and I did that. I saw Nancy, and an amazing surprise happened. Nancy actually had Brian Schulman come to join us as well. So I'd met Brian almost 3 years ago to the day at a LinkedIn local in Los Angeles. So it was amazing. I neither Raquel or I knew that Brian was coming as a surprise guest, and we just sat down and broke bread and had an amazing. I mean, the time just flew by. It was such a surprise and such an amazing opportunity to connect with somebody, 2 people I'd met before and a new person, and we all hit it off. It was amazing. And then I made my way to another campsite.
That's amazing. It sounds like you got in quite a flow of
I did.
the camp at the meeting, the camping meeting.
Yeah,
That's
and in
really
fact,
cool.
right, yeah, and in fact, tomorrow I will be doing my month reflective posting. So I'm going to be doing all the shout outs for all the people I did meet. I know I did about 4,300 miles, which was pretty good going in 21 days. So yeah, got to see and do some things I would never ever have dreamed I could do before.
What was the highlight of the trip?
The highlight of the trip was actually figuring out that it is okay to ask people for help when you are really stuck and not feel bad about it. And some of the walks I was able to do, some of the scenery, some of the sounds of nature, when you're sleeping on top of your vehicle in iCamper, even though the iCamper is pretty solid, you get to hear nature in a different way. Oh, and then the other thing is, for the last week of it being in the iCamper, it was almost full moon. So there's like a little moon roof that you can open in it. So I was able, the inside of the iCamper was lit by moonlight. So that was very surprising. So, and it's amazing how when you get out of the city and you're in these camping areas, how the stars and the moon are so bright when you're out of the city lights. It's so, yeah, lots of those memories. Yeah, the call of nature.
I resonate with that a lot. Nature calls to me tremendously. It's why I thought I was leaving this location a little bit sooner than I had planned.
Hey,
You
but
know,
you're making it work, right? So Kenny D just hopped into the conversation. Thank you, Kenny. Kenny is a man from the Texas, southern Texas area. He's been a great supporter for me. So thanks, Kenny, for all you do. And Kenny has recently been out meeting people for the first time as well. So I love to see his pictures when he gets to meet people from LinkedIn. So if you don't know Kenny, I would highly recommend. He's a great connection, Jamie, to reach out to.
I would love to. Let's connect, Kenny, if we're not.
Yeah, he's not shy, which is good. So obviously big transformation in your space, big transformation with the new custom table coming. What does the last quarter look like for you, Jamie? Obviously very different than you thought, but
Yeah, I think apparently the world is speaking for me
yes,
today,
I
which
know.
is
Lots
just
of
chaos, if you will. No, I would say that the last quarter for me, which honestly is not language I usually resonate with, because everything I'm learning more and more and more and more that we can plan and plan and plan, and you simply just don't know what's going to happen. And so I actually find it a little bit less stressful to hover somewhere in the middle of almost like making plans A through C at least.
right,
And so I think that the rest of this year for me is going to look a lot like doing what I can to really understand how it looks like and what it looks like for me to position myself as best as possible for 2023. And
right,
what does it look like to take care of, myself more, in order, because I am my business, right? My health and everything. So I have long COVID. I mean, a lot of my time is spent on my health. So I
right.
think
Absolutely.
that's what it's going to be, and building this out and hopefully getting in a lot of clients very, very soon.
Yeah. Well, it's funny is I think self-care is absolutely key for all of us. And again, when you're on the road for a long time, you realize that. And but what I would also say to you is that the planning is more if you have good strategy. And if you just allow yourself to sit into the flow, and people have said this for a long time to me, go with the flow. And it's an overused statement, but when you literally do feel comfortable enough and confident enough that you've got the right strategy, and if you do just sit into the flow, it's amazing where you can go. And yeah, so you won't always predict exactly the outcome, and it won't happen in exactly the same sequence as you might think. But if you've got good strategy and you keep plugging away at the strategy, you will flow to the right places that you need to flow to. So
I agree. I agree. And, making sure that you have the resources and the people in your corner when you start a new venture is
right.
helpful as well. And that's the power of sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and Kenny's saying about his love for meeting connections. We have that in common. We were away from each other in person for way too long. So 2023, Kenny, I will meet you. I can't do it this year. I've got goal number 6 to finish, which is a big one, and it will be out of the country for most of November. So we'll see. We'll see how all that goes. So I'm doing the strategy now, not trying to overplan it. But at least doing the strategy, so it will all work out. So what are the best ways for people to reach you, Jamie? Or what's your preference?
I would say here on LinkedIn, or you can email me at jamie.trannabischi@gmail.com or jamie.trannabis, whichever you prefer. But LinkedIn is my primary platform these days. And otherwise, you can find me as Trannabis and Trannabis Chi in all the
Okay.
places.
Yeah, and you're in California, right?
Yes, I'm here in LA. I bounce between New York, LA, and New Mexico.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's a big old spread of states, and a lot of
Yes.
different culture there. Especially from West Coast, East Coast. My goodness.
Yes, it's a big culture shock, but I spent most of my life on the East Coast, and the Midwest sort of found me through the nature of family, and
Oh, okay.
I like spend time there as well.
All right. Well, cool. Well, thanks for your time. And I'm just going to do a little outtake, care of my little brand story that Devin. So, Devin, who I'm about to introduce you, his voice to on my outtake video, I got to meet Devin actually in the Portland area. And it was interesting because you said about, what did I learn? What I also learned is that sometimes I can take local people to places they've never been and they didn't even know existed. So that was the case with Devin. Devin came to where I have my iCamper set up and picked me up, and I found this place because I asked one of the neighbors, "Hey, where should I go for a nice lunchtime with by the water?" Because I was near the Columbia River. Anyway, cut a long story short, I found this place. Devin had never been to it, and we ended up spending a few hours literally floating on a dock that was set up as a an outside eating area with drinks, and it was called the deck. So Devin and I floated around on the deck, and he'd never been there. So
you're frustrated that you have no time and you just hate it. You lost your mind. You're running around the kids and the spouse, and the business that was once your passion has got you burnt out. So, consult with Bruce, the guy in the blue shirt. He'll help you find the truth so that you can do you first. See, it's all about simpler, faster, better, so you can save massive amounts of time and money instead of longing for the day where you can finally kick your feet up. Do yourself a favor. Call up Bruce. He'll tell you about process cleanup.
great brand storyteller. Anyway, Kenny just popped in the comments saying he was originally from the New York City area. So you guys got a lot to chat about, my friend.
Oh, I look forward to it.
Yeah. All right. Well, again, thanks, Kenny, for all your love and support. We appreciate you, man. And I will leave you guys to connect offline. And yeah, just let me know how that goes. And success in your new at home, in work, convertible energy space. I love it.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. It's always fun to chat. And I love talking about transformation. So
Yeah.
everyone knows where to find me now.
I agree. All right. So take care, Jamie. And
You too.
bye,
Namaste.
everyone that's watching this live or as replay. Bye.